Okay, all the YouTubers, I have another thing to show everybody here. It's connecting batteries in series and then connecting them in parallel. So what I mean by this is this. We have 4 individual banks of 12 volt. And what I mean by that is this. The first bank are 2 individual 6 volt batteries. Then the next set is the same 6 volt batteries. And then we have the next set, and so on, the next set. Now what that is 4 individual reserves, all hooked in parallel to become one big reserve bank. Now we hooked the 2 6 volt up in series to get the 12 volts. And then we hooked up the next 2 to get the next 12 volts. And then the next 2 6 volt batteries were hooked up to get the next 12 volts. And the next 2 were hooked up to get the next 12 volts. And then after this, there is basically 2 bus bars. 2 bars. And now when they're all hooked together, those 2, these 2, these 2, and these 2, and then what we want to do is we want to basically bring the positive from this bank and this bank and this bank and this bank together. We want to bring that together to one bus bar. And we want to do the same thing with the negative leads. This negative lead, this negative lead, this negative lead, and this negative lead. Want to bring them all together and bring them to the negative bar. And then we're going to hook the inverter up to these 2 bars. Cables, it doesn't have to be done like this diagram. I'm just trying to give an illustration and a simple understanding of how it can be done, because it seems like a lot of people get confused on this, and I want to try to clear it up the simplest way I know how to anyway, and I hope it's simple enough for everybody to understand it. I know understanding things and the way people explain it can be sometimes very difficult, and I'm trying to do it simply for everybody. I myself understand it quite well, so I can do it many different ways and end up with the same result, and so can everybody else. But some people, it just completely confuses them, and confusion can create discouragement. And well, I don't want anybody, if they have this in their mind and they're planning on going ahead with it, to become so confused that they get discouraged and change their mind, because it's really simple. It's really not complicated. It's really not complicated. So when we're hooking up all the individual 12 volt banks, when we're hooking them all together, that is parallel. Now when we're hooking up just the 2 6 volts, that's series. So the 2 is series, which makes 12 volts. The next 2 is series, which makes 12 volts. The next 2 is series, which makes 12 volts. The next 2 is series, which makes 12 volts. Now when we have those 4 individual sections, we're going to use the parallel method. So we don't change the voltage. We want to keep the 12 volts. So we're going to use the parallel method to keep the 12 volts. And after we do that, that's exactly what we're going to have, is we're going to have 12 volts on the bus bars when they're all joined together. And this is where the power will actually come from. Running to your inverter, or if you're running DC appliances, whichever it is that somebody may be operating, whether it's inverted power or just straight out 12 volt DC power. And then if each one are 200 amp hours, the end result is 12 volts, 800 amp hours. Now that's pretty large in reserve wise size, and would hold up per person pretty decent. Well, I hope this little video explained things simply enough, and the understanding is out there after seeing it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, please.